Shalom. Welcome to the Messianic Hour with Rabbi Scott Sekulow. The Messianic Hour is a program designed to give you insight into the Jewish roots of your faith. Rabbi Scott is also here to answer your questions and help you gain a deeper understanding of Bible prophecy. And now, here's your host, Rabbi Scott Sekulow.
Shalom and welcome to another edition of the Messianic Hour. We're glad you're back with us. We're done with the New Year's and all the celebrations. Somewhat have kept us off into rerun land, but we are now back live, and we are so glad to be with y'all. We're looking for a great 2014 as we start this new year. A lot going on in the land. It's interesting as we see the events taking place here in the States. It's not by chance with all this cold weather that it's the same exact time in which our Secretary of State Kerry is trying to negotiate with Israel, and part of that negotiation is giving land back like Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, back to the Palestinians. And the scripture is very clear. I will bless those who bless my people, and I will curse those who curse my people. And we've seen this time and time and again. We've been doing this show now for going on 8 years. And we have talked about this in the past when the United States puts pressure on Israel, what happens. And this is just another example of that. Matter of fact, on the second half of the show, we're going to be looking into those situations and actually hear some sound bites from Secretary of State John Kerry and others as well on this issue and give you some insight on that. Judy, we're also going to be continuing our teaching on Messiah in the Passover, which we really see in the Torah scripture that we've been studying in Exodus. And it's really interesting because we're going to look at the matzah, the bitter herbs, and circumcision and how that all comes together. So if it's so neat to see how our Messiah is just really woven all throughout the Torah, but specifically in the different feasts, how we see our Messiah in not only the feast, it says he came to fulfill, to bring to perfection. That's really what that word means, these feasts in the Torah. And when we see our Messiah in like that, it's so neat to see it. Judy, you and I, we were down at the MJA conference in December, saw a number of our people who watch and listen to us on air. It's kind of neat to see people who go, oh yeah, we listened to you on the radio. And of course you like to shy away, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yes. It was. I mean, yes.
Talking about shine.
1 minute.
No, not always. I'm just trying to find something that we need. So I was letting you talk and paying half attention. But yes, it's a little weird that people come up and they know you and you don't know them, and yeah.
But it's fun, and we had a great time.
You're the outgoing one of the
Yes,
party.
I am. And we're getting ready to go to Israel in June. We had a number of people asking about that. There's still spots left. If you want to join us in Israel, June 9th through the 19th, contact our office at mail@rabbiscott.com. We will get you that information, and you can join us June 9th through the 19th. We're going to be back right after this break, so I want you to stay tuned. And
20.
You're listening to the Messianic Hour. Remember, too, you can get us on our website at rabbiscott.com and get more information there. You can sign up for our newsletter, and you get our weekly e-blast that has a copy of the show linked right to it. So go check that out at rabbiscott.com. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Messianic Hour. I'm Judy Sekulow. I'm glad that you're listening to us today, watching us today. We try to put this out to the greatest number of people available so that they can watch us, listen to us, and as we said, educate
reaching the lost and educating the found.
Boy, it's a new year, and I'm just tripping over my words. I think it's because it's the first of a year, and I've still got to close down 2013 on everything, and we've been, it's a new year, so you want everything feeling fresh, and we've been doing some things at our house, and my house feels like it's all in disarray. It's not really, but, when you paint, you got to move things, and they have to get moved back. So anyway, let's get the brain focused. We are on Exodus 10 through 13, and as you said, we are picking up with matzah. For those of you who may not know what matzah is, it's basically a saltine cracker that has no yeast, no taste, and...
It's actually not. We always joke around that it says it tastes like cardboard, but it's really not so
Well,
bad.
if you get salted matzah, it's not bad. The unsalted is pretty bad.
It's the type of thing that, it doesn't... If you're one of these people who has like a survival shelter, you put some matzah in.
Oh, boy.
You can eat it 5 years from now, it's to taste the same. So.
It doesn't go stale. It really doesn't. But now they've come out like everything matzah.
That's right.
They
It's
have
actually
different
good.
flavors of matzah.
Gluten-free matzah.
Yes.
It's actually really good.
It's better than, yes, it is.
Better than the real thing. Buy the gluten.
But you know what, though? I could eat matzah and harosis, the apple,
Yes.
walnut. I could eat that all the time.
And
because
we know how you love gefilte fish.
Oh, that stuff's nasty.
I love
Absolutely
it.
nasty.
Little horseradish.
As he
to die
says,
for.
if you eat gefilte fish, you've got to be Jewish because, for the rest of us, it's just torture.
So...
Well, that
It is.
and then what? Herring and cream
No, I don't,
sauce.
that's my parents'
Herring
generation. I
and
don't do that.
wine sauce.
I can't do that.
Okay, we're going on a little aside here.
Yes.
We had when Scott and I were very first married, multi years ago. We did Yom
Break the
Kippur,
fast.
went to break the fast,
remember this.
and went to one of his parents' friends' house, and they had a beautiful house. They had this huge, humongous spread. Okay, gefilte fish and lox and herring, all this stuff. And I remember I looked at him and I went, honey, I love you, but we're going to have to hit like McDonald's on the way home.
She did say that.
Really, really, really bad.
That was
I've
my
grown.
Tante Ella. I think it was the Wolf's house.
No, it wasn't.
Was it?
It was Mark and Kathy.
Oh, Moskowitz, yeah.
So, anyway, yes, I think I ate a plain bagel with vegetable cream
Yeah,
cheese
she was
and
a
a tomato
girl.
slice.
But you look how far you've come in 24 years.
I still eat plain bagels with vegetable cream cheese. Although I tell you, our daughter, she likes
Oh, man,
gefilte fish. And
she likes lox.
Lox. Oh, that child loves lox. Okay, anyway, would you like to get on the teaching?
Sure.
Now that
We've had a lot of fun. But that's what's so neat about the feast and the great memories. And that's really what Messiah is trying to show us in these, is that the symbolisms being so deep. And, we talked last week about how he is or a couple weeks ago, I should say, about how he is the lamb. And now we're going to look at how we are the matzah. And it's really interesting because Rabbi Shaul really brings in this point that deals with the fact, and it really comes from the scripture where it says, get rid of the old yeast that you may be a new batch without yeast as you really are. And so we really should, our bodies, our lifestyle should represent that of the matzah, the unleavened bread made without yeast. And that's a great picture that we see here in this and how it all comes together. And so that's really a great picture. And Saul really is teaching that our conduct between individuality and corporately that should match up with who we really are in Messiah and really be a new creature. That, of course, we still have sin, but as we're going to look later on how that comes in, the sin of the flesh is what was being removed, and we're going to see that when we talk about the circumcision. But it's really interesting to see how the matzah really represents our flesh, our body, and how it all comes together, and how we're going to see these different elements take place.
Well, again, as we said, the yeast represents sin. Matzah is without yeast,
Right.
without sin, and that's why we should become like the matzah. We should become without sin. Now, granted, we know we can't. That's why we have forgiveness in Messiah. But really, with the matzah as part of the Passover Seder, you take the matzah and you dip it in the apple, the harosis that I talked about. But you also dip twice. You dip with your bitter
Right.
herbs, and we know that this was a representation of how bitter slavery is. And as believers, I think if we look back to our life, before we were a believer and after we're a believer, we're going to see our life is so much better now. And before, because we had the sin, we were enslaved to that. We are kind of enslaved to the desires of the world and desires of the flesh. But when we become like the matzah, we can release that bitterness, and we can
Right.
find that true completion in Messiah.
And it's taken out too, so it's completely wiped away. But yet, with the matzah, it says every year we're to remember that bitter herb. Matter of fact, it says that when we're to eat it, it should literally bring tears to our eyes. And so when we see the eating of the bitter herbs, it's to remind us of what we once were, and not how we want to go back to, but how we want to now become anew in Messiah.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think it's a way where we become, it keeps us humble.
Right.
Because if we constantly live our life in the fullness of Messiah and all of this, I think we can get a little haughty. I think we can get, we feel like we've arrived. We feel like, we maybe know more than somebody else. But by having to revisit this every year, it reminds us where we've come from. That except for the grace of Messiah, that's where we still would be.
Right. And Judy, it's interesting because when we were doing the study, there was a great rabbi who literally went through the Holocaust. And to remember, to hear what he said about that and how we're to look at it, I want to quote him. It says, "There are events of such magnitude that one ought not to remember them all the time, but one must not forget them either." We have to remember where we came from so we don't go back to that way, and we don't let history repeat itself. And that is so important, that we don't want to, quote, backslide as we hear those people, they backslidden. That means they went back to their old ways. We don't want to do that. We want to have a new faith, a new renewed life in Messiah. And that's really the promise that he's making. And so as we see those take place, those are the three main elements. Even though the scripture doesn't say remember these things, when you read it, that's what comes out. But also what's very interesting to note, Judy, is that it says that only those that are circumcised can celebrate the Passover. So does this mean that Gentiles, and particularly Gentile believers who we said are engrafted in, can they no longer partake of the Passover because they're not Jewish?
Well, we go with that for an answer. You go to Colossians 2:11, and it says, "In him, in Yeshua, you were also circumcised in him, putting off of the flesh, not with the circumcision done by the hands of men, but with the circumcision done with Messiah." So we know that when we accept Messiah, we become, it's a circumcision of the heart. It's cutting off that fleshly sin and replacing it with the nature of God. It's letting the fullness of the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, move in our life and fulfill in our life. And it's important to realize that since we're spiritually circumcised, it gives a kind of a new relationship to sin that we haven't had before. And now we're able to really understand, have a better understanding of what sin really is, and say no to it. We're empowered.
Well, literally, the Lord cuts off, so to speak, the flesh of the new man. The sin is in the flesh. So before we were believers, sin, since the flesh, was where the sin came from, we see that cutting away taking place. Matter of fact, that's why Rabbi Shaul in Romans 7:17 says, "It is no longer I who sin, but sin who dwells within me." And so we see that picture of being, circumcised of the heart, that freedom to do it. So we see here that as believers in Messiah, both Jew and Gentile, the Gentile circumcision is just like that of the Jews. It's just of the heart. And the circumcision takes place so that they can participate in the Passover. This is why God uses those terms, circumcision of the heart, so that we, like you said, so we would understand fully this picture.
Well, and it's consistent with the motif that's already been established in the Torah, which is Devarim 36, where the Holy One tells Israel that one day he would circumcise their hearts. So it's really just a continuation of a practice and a promise that Adonai had set forth.
Right. So in the springtime when we celebrate Passover, we want to encourage you to join us. We have a community Passover Seder here. Also, you can watch it online. So this way you can see that beautiful picture of the promise that's to come. So you can get more information. You can sign up for our newsletter at rabbiscott.com. When you sign up, you get the free book, I Have a Friend Who's Jewish, Do You, and the prophecy card just for signing up. Check that out, and while you're there, you can also support this ministry. We are a listener-supported ministry. When we get back, we're going to be looking at Israel. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Messianic Hour. I'm your host, Rabbi Scott. The show is dedicated to reaching the lost and educating the found. I want to encourage you to go to our website, rabbiscott.com. There you can sign up for our weekly email. You get a update of what some things going on in Israel and what's going on with our ministry. And we are a listener-supported ministry. We really hope that you continue to bless us in 2014 so we can continue the work that we're doing. And Judy, there's also a way to bless Israel coming up January the 16th, the day before your birthday.
Thank you.
And it is what holiday?
Tu B'Shevet.
Tu B'Shevet, which is the planting,
New Year of the Trees.
New Year of the Trees, and it's traditional to plant a tree in Israel on that day. And actually, you can go to our website at rabbiscott.com and sign up to plant a tree in Israel. It's for a donation of $25. You get a beautiful certificate, and that is that you can put on your wall, and you can do it in memory or in honor of someone, and that also not only blesses Israel, but blesses our ministry as well. So check that out at rabbiscott.com and help us plant a tree. We're going to be doing that in our congregation too. Last year we planted over 150 trees last year for this feast.
And what this does is it really it establishes from the Torah the agricultural laws for Israel, because you take your tithe from your produce, so this is the time that they would determine that, but also when trees are first planted for the first 3 years, you don't harvest from that, and this helps them to know when that time is. This is kind of the marking for all of that. And it's also customary that you eat of the 7 spices of Israel, which is wheat, barley, olives, dates, grapes, figs, and pomegranates.
Cool. We love all those.
Yes, we do.
So check that out and help us to bless the land as we plant trees in Israel. So you can go there and help us do that. We want to plant, last year we planted over 150 trees. We want to beat that goal for this year. So go ahead and start going to our website and give that donation. You can do Plant a Tree in Israel, and it'll be all set. You can go to rabbiscott.com or bethadonai.com. Both sites bring you to the same place for that. And we will be glad to get you out your certificates as well. But now, Judy, there's a lot going on in the land. We were talking about in the opening how Secretary of State John Kerry has been trying to, again, negotiate this peace deal with, the Israel and Palestinians. And it's amazing. We have this bitter cold. I want you to hear, we're going to run, Joe, our producer, is going to run a soundbite. Joe, play number 14, please.
Israel's security is critical, and the United States relationship is ironclad. But so is our concern for the people of Palestine and for the Palestinians and their future. And I can guarantee all parties that President Obama and I are committed to putting forward ideas that are fair, that are balanced, and that improve the security of all of the people of this region.
Here's what he's not saying is, and this is the main problem that's going on with the negotiations. They can negotiate on the little stuff, but it's all going to boil down to one thing, and that's called Jerusalem. Because the Palestinians want to have control of the Temple Mount and half of Jerusalem. I want to make it very clear, when you start, you're going to hear these things, the 67 borders. And when you think of the 67 borders, you can't think of the before the War of 67, in which after the War of 67, but before the War of 67. Because remember, in 67, Israel takes over East Jerusalem, and they now have control of all of Jerusalem. The Palestinians want to go to a point which they, first of all, never approved of, although Israel did in 1947, when 1948, when this all came out, and to Israel to be a land, they were willing to do it, and the Palestinians refused it. Now that they lost that and lost the land, now they're saying they want to go to the 67 border. But again, it's the pre-war border, which really means it's the 1948 borders. So they're really wanting to go Israel back to the original plan that the UN had given. The problem with that, and we've seen this time and time again, is that Israel's land cannot be protected. I want you to hear another soundbite. Roll number 5, please.
I believe that the deal that he offers is a 67 borders, or the basis of 67, which swaps on a 1-to-1 ratio. It would include Jerusalem. As far as Kerry is concerned, this is what I believe. That should be for recognition by the Palestinians of a Jewish state.
And that was Danny Alan, who is on Netanyahu's staff. And what we see here is that's the plan that Kerry is trying to say to Israel, we want you to give up and give the land of half of Jerusalem back. Just to give you an idea, when we go to Israel, and we show this to people, you'll be in an area and we'll say, you see this area, it's all very nice. You would now be in the Palestinian-controlled area. Many of the hotels are in those areas. Also, the Temple Mount, all the places, the Mount of Olives, that's all East Jerusalem. Guess what? We weren't really. What happens when they decide they don't want us in there, or or your tour guide who's Jewish can't go in because it's Palestinian controlled? That's what happens right now in Bethlehem, and things like that. So it's something that we really have to watch and really understand, and we really need to get a full picture of what is taking place here, and to really understand the meaning behind it. And Joe, I want you to play soundbite 15 now.
A few days ago in Ramallah, President Abbas embraced terrorists as heroes. To glorify the murderers of innocent women and men as heroes is an outrage. How can President Abbas say that he stands against terrorism when he embraces the perpetrators of terrorism and glorifies them as heroes? He can't stand against terrorists and stand with the terrorists.
And there, Prime Minister Netanyahu really boils it down to a nutshell. How can you sit here and they say they want peace and they want to stop terrorism, yet on the other hand they glorify these terrorists and support it? And that's a major issue that's going on. While we're recording this, Judy just showed me too that the Knesset has now voted that they will not allow Jerusalem to be split. This is going to be a key factor because this is so important, because Netanyahu is being so pressured by our government to split Jerusalem, and you know what? That's going strictly against God's plan. This is a man-made work, and guess what? President after president after president have tried it, and all have failed. And each time when they go up against it and try to push Israel into a bad deal, guess what? Our nation gets hurt. We need to make sure that our president and Congress knows that we're here to support Israel, but we're not going to make them give up the land that God has promised to them. This was God ordained. This is bigger than a president. This is bigger than a nation. And that's really the key to understanding all this, is that this is in God's hand and God's control, and God promised the land to Israel, to his people, so that we can worship him there. And we're seeing here, the lines are going to be drawn. I've seen this before over the years. We're going to get hurt. Our economy, we've already seen the storms taking place. This is a sign. It's a warning shot from God telling us, pay attention. You mess with Israel, I mess with you. That's that's really in a nutshell. If you don't believe me, go check out Bill Koenig's website. He's been documenting this for years. He has a great book, Eye of the Storm, in which he shows time after time when the different things that happen with the perfect storm falls right in line when President Bush was trying to push Israel. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. When you go against Israel, God goes against you. And that's the problem that we're seeing here. And Secretary Kerry is trying all this, but the reality is we need to change. I want to close out with this last one. Play number 17, please.
Peace means ending incitement. It means fighting terrorism and condemning terrorism. It means recognizing Israel as the nation state of the Jewish people. It means meeting Israel's security needs. And it means being prepared to truly end the conflict once and for all. If we're to succeed in our joint effort, President Abbas must reject terror and embrace peace.
we hear those words from Prime Minister Netanyahu. We must protect it. We must have peace. And that's God's plan. I want to encourage you to go to our website, rabbiscott.com. Sign up for our newsletter to get more information. Until next week, this is Rabbi Scott.
And Judy.
Saying shalom and pray for the peace of Jerusalem.